Imagine walking through a sea of chrome and tail fins at a 1950s car show. Sleek coupes and family sedans line the rows, each one shouting for attention. But then, something odd stops you in your tracks. It's a wagon, but not just any wagon. It looks sporty, almost rebellious, like it can haul groceries on Saturday and then line up against a Corvette on Sunday. This was Ford's boldest experiment of the decade, the Del Rio. But here's the catch. The Del Rio lasted only 2 short years before Ford quietly pulled the plug. Why? How could a car that outsold its rivals at first suddenly crash so hard that it disappeared almost overnight? This is the forgotten story of Ford's daring 2-door sport wagon, a car that broke rules, confused buyers, and today stands as one of the rarest survivors of the 1950s. 1. The wagon boom. After World War II, America was changing faster than ever. Soldiers came home, suburbs spread like wildfire, and families needed cars that could keep up with the new lifestyle. That's where the station wagon found its sweet spot. By the early 1950s, wagons weren't just cars anymore, they were symbols of the American dream. Families loaded them up for weekend trips, cross-country vacations, and Sunday picnics. They had room for the kids, the dog, and half the neighborhood if needed. But here's the thing. Most wagons were built to be purely practical. Big, boxy, and usually with 4 doors. If you wanted something cheaper and simpler, you could get a 2-door wagon, like Ford's Ranch Wagon. It was sturdy, reliable, and got the job done. Nothing flashy. Nothing exciting. And that was the problem. Wagons were useful, but no one thought of them as stylish or fun. Until, suddenly, that started to change. 2. Chevrolet starts the trend. In 1955, Chevrolet decided wagons didn't have to be boring boxes on wheels. That year, they unveiled the Chevy Nomad, a 2-door wagon with the soul of a sports car. With its sloping roofline, chrome trim, and daring proportions, the Nomad looked more like a stretched Bel Air coupe than a family hauler. And people noticed. Suddenly, a wagon wasn't just the car you drove because you had kids, it was something you could actually be proud of. Pontiac followed quickly with its own version, the Safari, chasing the same sporty wagon idea. For Ford, this was a wake-up call. Their ranch wagon was practical, sure, but compared to the Nomad, it looked downright old-fashioned. Ford knew they couldn't sit back while Chevy turned wagons into fashion statements. They needed an answer, and fast. And that answer would eventually arrive in the form of a brand new wagon with a very bold name, the Del Rio. 3. Birth of the Del Rio. Ford's response came in 1957 with something no one quite expected, the Del Rio. Built on the sturdy ranch wagon platform but dressed to impress, this was Ford's attempt to prove a wagon could be both practical and stylish. Unlike the Nomad with its swoopy curves, the Del Rio had a sharper, more confident look. Ford wasn't chasing Chevy's flamboyance, they were carving out their own lane. The message was clear. This was not just another family hauler. It was aimed at younger buyers, people who wanted individuality, a wagon with personality, something that could stand out in the driveway and still haul lumber on Monday morning. Even the name carried weight. Del Rio evoked images of the American West, bold, rugged, and adventurous. It was Ford's way of branding the wagon as more than just transportation. This was a statement car. But Ford didn't stop at the name. They gave it unique styling, upscale trim, and features that pushed it far beyond the humble ranch wagon. For once, a wagon looked like it was built to turn heads. And when buyers got a closer look, the differences were impossible to miss. 4. Styling and features. At first glance, the Del Rio looked like a simple 2-door wagon, but a closer look told a different story. Ford gave it bold 2-tone paint schemes, eye-catching chrome, and a roofline that felt sleeker than most wagons on the road. It was boxy, yes, but in a way that gave it presence, almost like a muscle car in disguise. Inside, the Del Rio wasn't just bare metal and vinyl like many wagons of the era. It had upgraded trim, padded dash options, and fold-down seats that turned the back into a massive cargo bay. Families loved the space. Younger buyers loved the versatility. You could load it up for a camping trip or roll into town looking stylish, and it handled both roles without breaking a sweat. One clever touch: the swing-out rear tailgate and retractable window. It made loading everything from groceries to surfboards smoother, a detail that hinted Ford was targeting more than just the typical suburban family. And under the hood, Ford made sure the Del Rio wasn't stuck with weak engines. Buyers could spec it with V8 power, giving the wagon surprising punch. Suddenly, you had a wagon that looked sharp, hauled plenty, and could leave slower sedans in the dust. It was a package that should have made the Del Rio a runaway hit. But there was one problem, and it had nothing to do with the car itself. 5. The market problem. On paper, the Del Rio had everything: style, power, practicality. But the timing? That's where Ford stumbled. By the late 1950s, American buyers were already drifting away from two-door wagons. Families wanted easier access for kids, groceries, and luggage. 4 doors were simply more convenient, and that shift in preference was happening fast. So while the Del Rio looked cool, many buyers asked themselves, why wrestle with a 2-door when Chevy, Plymouth, or even Ford itself offered roomy 4-door wagons? Convenience was winning over style. And then there was price. The Del Rio wasn't exactly cheap. Positioned as a premium 2-door wagon, it cost more than Ford's basic wagons, but it didn't have the full luxury image to justify it. Buyers who wanted sporty went with coupes or convertibles. Buyers who wanted family hauling practicality went with 4 doors. The Del Rio was caught awkwardly in the middle. As a result, sales never took off. The car that was meant to battle Chevy's flashy Nomad ended up becoming a rare sight on American roads. But here's where the story gets even more interesting, because the Del Rio's short life only added to its mystery. 6. Why it was forgotten. The Ford Del Rio was never a bad car, it was simply a victim of changing tastes. By 1958, Ford realized 2-door wagons were fading fast, and instead of pouring money into marketing, they quietly let the Del Rio fade away. The result? Fewer than 15,000 were ever built, split across just 2 model years, 1957 and 1958. That's a tiny number compared to the hundreds of thousands of 4-door wagons Ford sold in the same period. And because most Del Rios were bought as workhorses, hauling equipment, groceries, or even tools, many were run into the ground. Unlike flashy convertibles or muscle cars, nobody thought to tuck them away in a garage for future collectors. By the time classic car enthusiasts started paying attention, most Del Rios had already disappeared. That's why today, when one does show up at an auction or classic car meet, it almost feels like spotting a ghost. Even many hardcore Ford fans don't recognize the name. But here's the twist. The Del Rio's rarity has actually turned it into a hidden treasure among collectors. 7. The rarity factor. What once hurt the Del Rio, its low sales and quick disappearance, is exactly what makes it so valuable today. In the world of classic cars, rarity is everything, and the Del Rio has it in spades. Unlike the Chevy Nomad, which had the spotlight and a cult following, the Del Rio slipped through history almost unnoticed. That means when one does show up today, collectors see it as something truly special, a piece of Ford history that most people have forgotten even existed. Restored examples now fetch serious money at auctions, not because they were the fastest or most luxurious, but because they represent a unique moment in automotive design. A time when Ford tried to blur the line between practical family hauler and stylish head-turner. And here's the kicker, most Del Rios didn't survive. The ones that did are almost always in the hands of dedicated enthusiasts who treat them like rolling works of art. For collectors, owning a Del Rio isn't just about having another vintage Ford. It's about having the rarest wagon of the era, a car that tells a story few others can. 8. Legacy. The Ford Del Rio may have been a commercial flop in its day, but its story is one of those fascinating twists in automotive history. A car designed to blend style with practicality, born to rival Chevy's Nomad, yet destined to vanish after only 2 short years. It never got the recognition it deserved, and maybe that's why it feels so special now. The Del Rio wasn't just another station wagon. It was Ford's bold experiment, a car caught between eras, and one that now stands as a reminder of how quickly tastes can change in the auto world. Today, the Del Rio isn't remembered by the masses, but by those who know, the enthusiasts, the collectors, the dreamers. To them, it's more than just a car. It's a hidden gem, a survivor, and a rare piece of Americana that tells a story of ambition, miscalculation, and ultimately, timeless charm. So the next time you see a Del Rio, if you're lucky enough to spot one, remember this, you're not just looking at a station wagon. You're looking at one of Ford's most mysterious creations, a car that tried to be everything, and in doing so, became unforgettable. You've been watching Gear Ghosts, where the forgotten rides of the past come back to life. If you enjoyed uncovering the secrets of the Ford Del Rio, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another hidden chapter of automotive history. Until next time, keep chasing the legends.